And back for the final part of the Pilgrims of Solomon Kane, the adventure of The Hand That Feeds. I didn't actually say that at the start, but that's the name I came up with. Right. They found the Reverend dead. The note saying, "Look to the mist, forgive me." What does he mean? They have no idea. However, evening comes, and you know, sort of late afternoon, and they decide to head towards the tower. And the woodsman, completely oblivious, has not noticed the fact that the tendrils, the smoke from his fire, are beginning to become quite unnatural. And yes, this was purely happenstance. Originally, this was going to be fog. The fact is, the woodsman set a fire right outside the tower. You know, and I'm like, that's just awesome. I can use this. And so basically, the smoke from the fire begins to weave through the air, and then suddenly they see it go through the windows. They call out to the woodsman to douse the flames, which he does quickly, though the damage has already been done. They hear a low, sort of terrified moan come from within the tower, followed by shrieks that then give way to animalistic squealing. The back door of the tower, which there is one, there had to be, because, you know, basically the woodsman was camped right outside the front door. I needed somewhere to go. And this is the thing about GMing novices. Never be afraid to meddle a little bit with the details. If you haven't described it already, that's just a canvas for you to describe something completely different. And yes, a lot of this adventure was off the cuff. I knew what was going to happen. I knew what was happening and how the threads tied together. How they actually sort of, you know, I was really pleased with how the players got through all this. So I'll get through that in a minute. Though. Basically, the back door smashes open, and they catch a sight of something dashing into the forest. They can't quite see the silhouette clearly. Quickly, the woodsman stalks. The pirate dashes into the tower. He looks around. He can't find hide nor hair of Aramis, the astronomer. However, the woodsman has gone over, told Cassavir to hold up a torch. He's looking across the ground, and he can see human footprints leading off into the forest. He follows them a little way, and then, to his surprise, they slowly begin to warp. And a little way in, they become nothing more than a pig's trotters, and he got a very good tracking roll, so either a pig or a wild boar or something of that description. Distinctly trotters dashing through the forest. Quickly they rally themselves, following the trail, and what they find deep within is an absolutely dilapidated, rotten, completely wrecked, ruined hut. Very simple one-room hut, deep in the woods, and this is late at night now. Stealthily they sneak up and peer in through the window, and despite the years of dust and fungus that has actually grown upon the wooden flooring, there is a distinct trail of disturbed dust that leads straight down a set of stone cellar steps. Cautiously they creep inside. They creep down towards the lower levels, their torches still flashing, and they are quickly bathed in an airy green glow. The floor is nothing more than bare earth. The cellar itself, a simple construction. However, there are two sconces upon the far corners of the room, an eerie green flame flickering above, and there in the centre are three beautiful naked women dancing around a cauldron, bubbling and steaming. And all around their feet, it basically is a it's a boneyard of rotten meat, bones, you know, intestines, everything you can think of. And above it, strung to a chain, is the poor creature, the pig that Aramis has become with a slit throat, its blood draining into the cauldron beneath. And yes, I admit this is very gruesome. I normally don't do this. However, I do apologise if this image is... I probably should have slapped "this is not for younger kids" earlier. However, you know, like I said, I was going for real shock factor. This man they just met, and here he is. They think, you know, over the cauldron. Not nice. As they look at these women, they clearly recognise that one of them is Gwen. They're looking more ravishing and beautiful than they could ever have thought possible. And around her feet and around all of their ankles, in point of fact, the only thing sort of marring their unblemished skin are the clear signs of ropes that have cut into their flesh presumably when basically they were tied to a huge rock and actually thrown into the lake. They quickly, of course, notice the adventurers. They notice the new flame coming in. And one of them hisses, "Fresh meat, sisters, we dine well tonight," etc. And then another pipes up, "These are the ones who killed our puppet. They must be made to pay." And the other thing that I must also point out is that actually nailed to the, as you look at it, the right-hand wall, is a black cat that very closely matches the one that was sucking the soul out of the baby in the house. Obviously a bit decomposed. The three women begin to chant, and just for a moment the party is held enraptured. And then the bones on the floor begin to rise, and they form a hideous construct of rotting flesh, and it is a construct. Think of Frankenstein's monster made of sort of bones of animals and things. And at this point, the head rips off the pig and finishes this absolute abomination. And to cut a long story short, the hags then, also attack the heroes. Sorry, I've given that away, hags. The hags also begin to attack the heroes. But as they do so, they become terrifying, ogreish creatures. Water drips from their hair and flows from their lips. Their skin bulged, puffy with liquid, and their eyes sort of bulge from their sockets. And they do honestly look like the hellish drowned corpses that they no doubt must be. And to cut a long story, well, the heroes finally, they fight back the evil. A terrible tragedy has befallen this whole village, but they save the day, if somberly, and that's really where the tale ends. And they go back and they're congratulated, but for all the death and evil that's happened here, what can you do? But that was the tale of the hand that feeds. And although they're heroes, they're not knights in shining armour. Inevitably, they got there a bit too late. But exactly what happened is that, yes, as I'm sure you've figured out by me telling this, because I was a bit out of order, the necromancer did indeed have a book, and that page from the book that the innkeeper originally took in the Wayside Inn, at the start of the adventure, and nailed it to his wall, it corrupted them, and infested them with the spirits of cannibals. And this is what happened to them. However, the necromancer, who'd been struck with a mighty blow on his head, had staggered towards the village of Dunstan, and then falling prone by the lake, he had indeed dropped the book into the waters, polluting them. It was only 2 days later, and this was a coincidence. Don't be afraid about using coincidences in RPGs. This is how real tales happen, after all. Only 2 days later, Bridget Moores was found to have these pagan symbols within her home. She was cast into the lake, and there the book revived her, and she became the first hag. It was down to her wish for revenge that the townspeople started to disappear. However, she was clever. She stole Bridget's cat and replaced it with a demon. I won't go into which one. However, if anybody's read the Bestiary, it's under the M section in the alphabetical order under Unnatural. You'll know exactly which one I mean if you read it. And essentially she replaced this thing to sow discord. So that, in other words, even if this demon had actually been killed, as he was, hopefully the villagers themselves would not know that things were amiss. Now basically, the priest himself had already become a puppet to Bridget, and she wanted him to keep sort of sentencing poor girls, as witches. So both Gwen and Cynthia were convicted and also turned into hags. She wanted a sisterhood. She basically wanted to take over the village, rule by fear, whatever. Even maybe challenge Dartmoor, you never know. And this was successful until, after the cat died, the priest finally managed to find himself, and doing the only thing he could, he committed suicide and this note in code to warn people that no, it still wasn't over. Now, the astronomer was going to play a larger role, but the way the actual adventure planned out, I didn't actually need him to in the end. It was going to be some random townsperson that was going to get turned to the pig, and the astronomer was initially going to be the guy who warned all of them about the danger. It didn't turn out that way, which is fine, so he got turned into the pig. So yeah, basically the whole thing was these hags were turning villagers into pigs by way of animals in general by way of revenge. You know, these animals were drawn down to the cellar and they were being sort of butchered and consumed. And this, you know, that was the whole plot thread. I did do a bit of thinking and slotting all this stuff together, and to be honest with you, the hags and the inn at the start, the hags were an example adventure, which I can't give you a page reference for, I don't know where it is at the moment, in the Solomon Kane book, all about how to create adventures and whatnot. The actual, the hags, those were the hags. The actual inn itself, as I said, was on page 175. The Hunger, I believe the adventure's called. But like I said, I just used these plot points, I tied them together. I initially started off with the cat demon and this poor woman convicted as a witch, and they just all flowed together, and I created it. And what I'm trying to say is, you don't need to be too complex about your plots, although this one actually was. They loved it. I'll be right back for a conclusion in a mo.